1,444 people dead in just 14 days. Missiles flying through the skies over 9 nations. Explosions rattling windows in Dubai. Sirens screaming in Tel Aviv. American soldiers coming home in flag-draped coffins. And right now, as you watch this video, bombs are still falling. So I have to ask you the question that every general, every senator, and every world leader is whispering behind closed doors right now. Are we already at war? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what is happening, why it started, who is dying, and what it means for you right here at home. My name is Rechel Meddow, and this is the story they don't want you to miss. Let's go back to the beginning, because to understand the fire burning today, you have to understand who lit the match and when. February 28th, 2026. That date will go down in history books. On that Saturday morning, the United States of America and Israel launched a massive coordinated military assault on the Islamic Republic of Iran. At the State of the Union address just days earlier, President Trump had told the country that Iran had restarted its nuclear program and was developing missiles capable of striking the United States. Now, let me be clear about something. The U.S. and Israel stated their goals as inducing regime change in Iran and destroying its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Regime change, that's not a surgical strike. That is not a limited operation. That is a declaration of intent to topple a government. And it did not go unanswered. But here's what makes this even more troubling. Pentagon briefers acknowledged to congressional staff that Iran was not planning to strike U.S. forces unless Israel attacked Iran first. Let that sink in for a moment. Our own military told Congress, Iran was not coming for us first, and yet the bombs fell anyway. In the weeks before the attack, Iran had actually signaled a willingness to sign a comprehensive nuclear non-proliferation agreement. The mediating Omani foreign minister had called it significant progress, with Iran willing to make real concessions. But President Trump said he was not thrilled with the talks. Al Jazeera, a deal was on the table, and we walked away from it and into a war. When the bombs dropped on February 28th, they didn't just hit military targets. They hit the heart of Iran's leadership. Khamenei was killed in one of the initial strikes, along with about 40 other senior Iranian officials. His movements had been tracked for months by the CIA, which learned about a Saturday morning meeting at a compound in Tehran that Khamenei was expected to attend, and that intelligence was passed on to Israeli counterparts. Al Jazeera. Think about what that means. The supreme leader of Iran, a man who had ruled that country for over 3 decades, was assassinated in a coordinated intelligence operation. The entire region held its breath. Drone launch sites, military airfields, and hardened underground missile facilities were struck by U.S. B-1 and B-2 bombers. In the south, naval infrastructure was repeatedly targeted, and the U.S. reportedly destroyed 17 Iranian warships, including 1 submarine. Al Jazeera government and leadership facilities, including the leadership compound, the presidential office, the Expediency Council, and the Assembly of Experts, were all hit alongside IRGC bases. Iran's National Broadcasting Agency was bombed multiple times. House of Commons Library. Trump told reporters that just about everything's been knocked out, and that Iran had no Navy, no Air Force, no air detection, and no radar left after the attacks. House of Commons Library. But here's what the president underestimated. Iran still had its missiles, and it still had its will. Within hours of the first American bombs falling, Iran launched what analysts are calling an unprecedented retaliatory campaign. Not just against Israel, not just against the United States, but against 9 separate nations across the Middle East. Iran launched counterstrikes against Israel, U.S. military bases across the region, and military and civilian locations in Arab states that house American forces. Even UK bases in Bahrain, Qatar, and Cyprus were targeted. Al Jazeera. Let's go nation by nation because Americans deserve to understand the full scope of what is happening. Israel. At least 15 Israelis have been killed and more than 2,000 others wounded in Iranian attacks. On March 1st alone, an Iranian ballistic missile strike on central Israel's Beit Shemesh killed 9 people and injured more than 20. Wikipedia. Iraq. 27 people have been killed, including 21 fighters of pro-Iran armed factions, at least 3 Iranian Kurdish fighters, an airport guard at Erbil Airport, and a civilian near Baghdad. A French chief warrant officer also died during an attack in Iraq's Erbil region. Wikipedia, Kuwait. A 29-year-old woman was killed and 8 people injured when a residential building in Bahrain's capital, Manama, was hit. Wikipedia. And in Kuwait, 6 electricity transmission lines went dark after drone debris slammed into the power grid. Qatar. 2 ballistic missiles struck the Al Udeid military base, where U.S. forces are stationed, while a drone targeted an early warning radar installation. All schools moved to remote learning, and Ramadan gatherings were suspended until further notice. Wikipedia. The UAE. Explosions rocked Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Both Dubai International Airport and Abu Dhabi's Zayed International Airport suffered damage from Iranian strikes. More than 20,000 travelers were stranded. Al Jazeera, Saudi Arabia. 2 people were killed and 12 others wounded in the central governorate of Al-Kharj after a projectile struck a residential area. Wikipedia. Bahrain. Oman. Jordan. All struck, all rattled, all wondering what comes next. And then there's Lebanon. Hezbollah joined the fight after Khamenei's killing, and at least 31 people were killed and 149 wounded by Israeli strikes in Lebanon, with more than 816,000 Lebanese nationals displaced. House of Commons Library. This is not a regional skirmish. This is a regional war. Now I need to talk to you about something that should matter to every single American watching this video. Our sons and daughters are dying. 13 American service members have died since the U.S. and Israel launched the initial strikes on February 28th. About 140 more U.S. service members have been wounded, with 8 of them severely injured. NPR. Let me tell you about 2 of them, because they deserve to be more than a number. Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore was 39 years old. She lived in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. She had 2 children, a son in his senior year of high school and a daughter in 4th grade. She had been set to come home soon. Her husband told the Associated Press, "She was almost home. You don't go to Kuwait thinking something's going to happen." NPR Sergeant Declan Cody was just 20 years old. He was from Des Moines, Iowa, a college student at Drake University, attending classes virtually while stationed in Kuwait. His sister said, "I still don't fully think it's real. I just remember all of our conversations about what he was going to do when he came back." NPR. A mother, a college kid, gone, and more are heading into the fight. An additional 2,200 U.S. Marines are heading to the Middle East right now. Wikipedia. Meanwhile, back home in Washington, Congress began voting on a war powers resolution to halt the assault on Iran. Senator Tim Kaine said plainly, "This is an illegal war." American Friends Service Committee. No formal declaration of war, no vote from Congress, just bombs and body bags. Now let's talk about the people caught in the middle of all of this. At least 1,444 people have been killed and 18,551 injured by U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran since February 28th, according to Iran's health ministry. 55 healthcare workers were wounded and 11 were killed, including 4 physicians, 2 nurses, and 3 emergency workers. Wikipedia. Doctors, nurses, emergency responders, killed. The United Nations Refugee Agency says as many as 3.2 million people have been displaced inside Iran from the fighting. Wikipedia. 3.2 million human beings, families, elderly people, children, fleeing bombs. Several historic and cultural sites, including UNESCO World Heritage Sites, were damaged during the war. Strikes on Isfahan on March 9th damaged Naqsh-e-Jahan Square, Chehel Sotun, the Shah Mosque, and the Jama Mosque. UNESCO issued an urgent statement urging protection of Iran's heritage sites. House of Commons Library, 1,000-year-old sites, irreplaceable pieces of human history, gone. And it is not just Iran suffering. At least 31 people were killed and 149 wounded in Lebanon, with more than 816,000 Lebanese nationals displaced. House of Commons Library. The human cost of this war is staggering, and it grows every single day. And here is where it hits close to home for every American watching, especially if you're on a fixed income, a pension, Social Security, or just trying to keep your family afloat. This war is already hitting your wallet. Stock futures tumbled in overnight trading. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 517 points. S&P 500 futures lost 1%. Gold futures jumped 2% as investors piled into the safe haven. American Friends Service Committee. When the markets panic, your retirement account feels it. Your 401k feels it. And then there's oil. As part of Iran's effort to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, it targeted several vessels with drone and missile strikes. Al Jazeera Iran controls the northern side of the Strait of Hormuz, and analysts warn that closing it, or even major disruptions there, would trigger a significant global energy crisis. Al Jazeera. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through that narrow waterway. If it closes, gas prices in America don't just go up, they explode. And when gas goes up, everything goes up. Groceries, medicine, heating bills, everything. Air travel across the Middle East had virtually ground to a halt, with major hubs shuttered due to missile and drone strike threats. Airline shares plunged across Hong Kong, Australia, and Europe. Al Jazeera. This is not just a Middle East problem. This is a global economic event. And Americans, especially seniors on fixed incomes, will feel every ripple. With the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the world has a new and deeply unknown figure to reckon with. Following the assassination of his father, Mojtaba Khamenei was appointed the new Supreme Leader. He issued his first statement warning that attacks on Israel and U.S. military assets would continue unless bases hosting U.S. forces in the region were closed. Al Jazeera Iran's new Supreme Leader also declared that the Strait of Hormuz oil shipping lane will remain closed. AJC. Meanwhile, a senior advisor to the new Supreme Leader appeared on Iranian state television and called President Trump, and I am quoting here because this matters, the most corrupt and stupid American president, and Satan himself. This is the rhetoric of a regime that is not looking to de-escalate, and Iran's president has now publicly named his conditions for ending the war. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian outlined 3 conditions: recognition of Tehran's legitimate rights, payment of reparations, and firm international guarantees against future aggression. AJC. Those conditions will not be met quickly, which means this war is not ending tomorrow. So I'll ask you again the question I asked at the very beginning. Are we already at war? The answer, by every honest measure, is yes. 14 days of airstrikes, missiles flying over 9 nations, American soldiers dying, 3 million civilians displaced, the world's most critical oil route under threat, stock markets rattled, a new Iranian leader vowing to fight on, and here at home, no congressional vote, no formal declaration, just a president, bombs, and the bodies of young Americans being carried off planes at Dover Air Force Base. This is a moment that demands your attention, not because there is easy comfort to offer, but because an informed people, a people who understand what their government is doing in their name, is the only check that has ever truly mattered in this country. You deserved to know the truth today. Share this video with someone you love, because this story matters, and the more people who understand it, the better chance we have of demanding the accountability and the peace that every family, American, Iranian, Israeli, Lebanese, deserves. I'm Rechel Meddow. Stay informed, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.